New York City attracts people. Culture, music, buildings, skyscrapers, and a lot of opportunities hard to find in many other cities.
I love New York, I do, but I'm very lucky in that one of my best friends moved over here the same time that I did, so it still feels very normal for me.
I absolutely hate New York. Like, I cannot tell you enough like how much I hate living here.
Even if it's a beautiful place, it's a stressful, noisy, and fast-paced city. And people have different problems to face.
I need to be here right now in order to get to the next phase of my life, but I don't recommend anyone living here for an extended period of time. It's never been a dream of mine to live in New York. I don't feel lucky to live here. I don't think, there's so many people with a dream and a plan and they want to be here so badly. Like, I don't feel that.
Ultimately, I believe that we're not really designed to live like this, right? If you think about what it's like to live in a city, we're surrounded by steel, concrete. There's very little in terms of nature around us. And we're also sort of really packed in with each other. I mean, literally, if you start riding the subway, like, you're shoulder to shoulder with everybody. And in terms of our living environments, right, we're sort of stacked up on top of each other in apartment buildings.
More than 8 million people live in New York City, and we see them around us all the time. But still, we can feel very lonely here.
I'm a strong advocate of the saying, sometimes you have to go to a place of darkness to come to a place of light. And I think for me, I always tell myself whenever I'm going through a hard time, and I mean, there's been times where when I moved out with my ex and I got my own place, like, I make it seem funny and interesting now, but I mean, there was times where I was collapsed on my floor, crying, didn't know how I was going to deal with this. During the transition of moving out alone in New York, I found myself at Bellevue Psychiatric Walk-in Clinic one day because I was so beside myself with like anxiety and fear and depression that I needed to go somewhere and talk to someone. And I was so alone here, and I didn't really have anywhere to turn.
So because of these things, what I find is that often people react to this stress in ways where they start isolating themselves. They start sort of creating a sense of separation between the outside world here in the city and sort of their interior world, right? So you see it like as you walk the streets, you see people preoccupied with your phones, you see people listening to music, like really doing their best to kind of like create some kind of inner peace that involves shutting out whatever's happening in the external environment.
Despite isolation, people still come here to achieve their dreams, and they want something more and better.
Every day I wake up and I feel like I'm fighting for something better. And I mean, it definitely sets you up for failure because you're fighting for something that maybe doesn't exist, but you're still trying to get better. And I think when you're in a small town, you just accept life on life's terms. You don't feel like you're in a war every day. And I think when you live in a place like New York, you feel like you're in a non-existent or a fictitious battle on a daily basis.
We as people have this amazing ability to be unhappy regardless of our circumstances. And here in the city, there are particular things that we're unhappy about that are characteristic of the urban environment. And in rural settings, there's things there that people are unhappy about that aren't present here in the city.
New York City is considered as a dream city and a place where anything can happen.
And do I dream again?
But having dreams and being unable to make them come true can cause psychological problems.
Everyone here, even after they realize that they either accomplished their dream, that they're never going to accomplish their dream, or their dream wasn't real at all, they're too proud to move home and consider themselves a failure. So they'd rather stay here and be miserable than move home. And I see that with a lot of people.
Not everyone is going to succeed, and not everyone is going to succeed in the way that they want, right? And that's fine. That's fine. I mean, it's often like how people react to their own circumstances that creates the difficulty. It doesn't mean that we're a failure if we don't achieve everything that our mind tells us we want or should have.
So maybe it's not the city itself which creates people's problems, rather how we react to things around us, and our expectation, which is not always the reality. For NIFA News, this is Emily Olson.